Good morning and welcome to the show. Today's question: should you expect prospects to reply your emails all the time? If you listen to the previous podcast, yes, it sounds similar and expect to have some overlap. But let's delve straight into the question: should you expect prospects to reply your emails? Now, to answer this question, we need to figure out who a prospect is. Those of you who've listened for a while, you already know the answer. But for those of you who are listening to the podcast for the first time, we're going to go through a brief recap and bring you up to speed. So, a prospect is someone to talk to who might be potentially interested in your product or your service. So, if this is your first time of listening to the podcast, this is the Sales for the Nigerian Business Person podcast. And so, we are focused on trying to get people into a business relationship with us. And so, the initial question that we start off asking in our day to day and in our business journey overall is to figure out who might be interested in what it is that I have to sell. And believe me, we all are selling something. Whether you're a carpenter, or you're a lawyer, or you're a brain surgeon, or a marketing consultant, or you supply tissue paper to hospitals and hotels in Abuja or Lagos. We all have something that we're selling. So the business journey starts with trying to figure out who the prospects are. People who might be interested in our product or service, people who might have a want, people who might have a need. So today's question is focused on interactions that you're having with prospects. So we're talking about people who might be potentially interested in your product or service. So we're not talking about whether it's reasonable to expect your mom to reply your email all the time, or people who are paying customers currently to reply your emails all the time. We're focused on people who are prospects. You're still in that early stage. You guys are still toasting each other, trying to fill each other out, trying to figure out if you guys can do business together. Those are the sorts of people that we're talking about. Now, if you're having conversations with a prospect, of course, the primary thing we're trying to figure out is to figure out if they're a good candidate to do business with. So, how do we go about doing that? We do that by having open conversations with these people where we're asking them loads of questions. Open conversations are conversations that are built around asking questions that can't be answered by yes or no. So if you just start off the conversation by saying, I sell insurance, are you interested in insurance? The answer can either be yes or no. That is not a very good way to open the conversation. So, I'd keep the conversation open and flowing. But if you're an insurance salesperson and you ask the person that, congratulations, you have such beautiful kids. How many? You have such beautiful kids. How old are they? This guy looks like he's 15, and the woman says, oh, yes, I have three of them, 16, 14, and 12. The other one that you see there is my niece. And then you say, oh, I'm sure you're saving up for their education. You know that master's programs are really expensive. And she's like, yes, master's program costs an arm and a leg. We're looking at this school, that school, blah, blah, blah. And then from there, you're going to be able to bring in the fact that you have insurance products that allow people to save for their children's education and things like that. But you can see how if you start off the conversation by asking open questions around them, their interests, their needs, their desires, stuff like that, eventually you can introduce your product. But if you show up to the woman in this case, the madam, you sit down, you're an insurance professional, you say, oh, madam, please let me talk to you about our education savings product. You're going to lose them from the beginning. Or if you start off by saying, are you interested in the education savings product? The answer is going to be either yes or no, and the conversation will close down. So that is how you figure out if all the prospects that we're dealing with, that's how you figure out if they're good candidates to do business with. So it's open conversations and you're asking lots of questions, and then you wait and listen to the answers. The answers they provide let you know what the next step is going to be. The questions you're going to be asking are going to be around their needs or their wants, their interests, their goals, the pain points, around personal issues, professional issues. Like in this case, for instance, you're an insurance professional. You sat down in madam's office. You're asking questions about the number asking questions about her children, plans for their life, goals, things like that. It is then that you're going to be able to tailor your pitch, whether you're going to be selling an education savings product or whether you're going to be selling life insurance or whatever. So, yeah, asking questions around those things, around people's financial expectations, the cost that they can bear, or the rewards that they want after the transaction. In this case, for instance, if an education savings product, then of course, if it's some sort of savings product, then people are looking at the amount of money that they're going to cash out at the end of the day. How much money are they going to receive to be able to pay for their children's school fees. So if you are a medical doctor, or if you're a wedding photographer, then of course financial expectations at the end, don't count. But bottom line, I'm sure you guys get the gist. There are lots of questions that you could be asking that help you figure out what are people interested in, what do they actually need, and that's how you figure out if someone is a prospect and who might be a good candidate for doing business with later. Also, when we're asking these questions, let's not forget questions around time frames and the decision making process. So, if you're an insurance person in front of Madame, the mother of the children, you need to be able to figure out quite quickly if, in their family, these are decisions that she takes exclusively, or if something that she's going to discuss with her husband. Because if she's going to discuss with her husband or the father of the children, let's say they don't happen to be married, then it's something you need to know early so that you can bring in the husband into the into the sales process later on. So timeframes for making decisions are really, really important. Now, I'm sure you guys are asking in your head, how does all this relate to opening emails? Because the question at the start of the show, and the question for today, is should you expect prospects to reply your emails? And now we're talking about prospects, and we're talking about some funny thing called qualification. Oh, by the way, this whole process of having conversations and asking them all these questions, this whole process is called qualification. So we started out of talking about open emails, and right now you're talking to me about prospects and qualification. What's the relationship? Now, this is the relationship, and I'm going to use an example to show you how qualification is related to this aspect of whether people are opening your emails or not. Now, the example I'm going to give is I'm going to use a listener of the podcast, and her business is called Wellness with Dr. Zainab. I think she's on Instagram as Wellness with Dr. Zainab. She's a Borno-based surgeon and fitness coach. Now, Borno is one of the states in the north central part of Nigeria, and I think this is the most interesting location that we've had so far. Listeners of the podcast based in Nigeria, anyway, because I've got listeners that I've spoken with, chatted with, from Abuja, from Lagos, Port Harcourt, the typical places, the usual places, but I haven't gotten anybody from the Northeast. So, Dr. Zainab, she is my most interesting listener for now, for today, until I run into someone else that is listening from another part of the world or another region in Nigeria that one wouldn't expect. So where was I? Okay, yeah. So Wellness with Dr. Zainab. She's a Borno-based surgeon and fitness coach, and she's a podcast listener. So for her now, prospects are people, anybody who might be dealing with health challenges, but she has to run people through a process of qualification because she needs to figure out the health challenges that they have, whether they're willing to change, and whether they're able to afford her medical fees. Because it's not everybody who has health challenges that is willing to change. There are some people who have blood pressure issues, cardiac issues, and the whole world tells them stop eating beef, stop eating ice cream, stop eating fried chicken. But for some reason, they are not willing to change because people in this part of the world have this idea that somebody is going to kill you, if something is going to kill you eventually, so you might as well enjoy. So if there's someone with health challenges and the person can afford her medical fees, but the person is not willing to change, then this person is not a good potential client for Dr. Zainab. Now, Dr. Zainab also needs to ask more questions, qualifying questions, because she needs to figure out what kind of solutions that she's going to offer this person. Now, let's go back to the blood pressure related things, and let's say blood pressure, let's say the issues with the heart. Now, those of you who are medical doctors listening to the podcast, please don't judge me. I'm just making up scenarios on the fly, so don't expect the things that I'm saying to be absolutely correct. I'm just freestyling here, so you guys get a better picture of how qualification ties into whether people respond to their emails or not. So she also needs to engage them in more qualifying conversations to figure out the problem, and also possible solutions that she can provide. Now, remember, she's a fitness coach as well. So there's some people that the solution is surgery. We need to sit you up, put you on the table, open up your heart, and we need to take this supravenal artery or whatever. We need to cut this, stitch this, join this, expand this, narrow this, get a heart transplant, whatever, different things. And therefore, some people that lifestyle modification might be the solution. Like, okay, yes, you have blood pressure issues, but your readings are currently this. Your heart, you have a block in this or that. But all we have to do is work out 30 minutes every day for the next 3 years, and this will go away, and you should be fine. And there's no need for us to look at heart surgery until another 20 years, if you follow my advice. You're a reasonable young man. You're in your 50s or 60s. So if you follow this advice, you should be able to live well into 70s, 80s before we start talking about heart surgery. So she needs to ask questions before she can give all that advice. Now, if she has had conversations with people around all these issues and she has followed the qualification process, then you best believe that if she sends an email to this person, it is going to be built around the person's interests, the person's needs, the person's desires, the person's pain points. And you best believe that the email that she's going to send to this individual is definitely relevant. So, if the person sees an email matching the interests, the needs, the desires, the pain points, the relevancy, the person will definitely open that email. And that's because Dr. Zainab has gone through the whole process of qualifying this client, this potential client. So she knows this client, and because of that, the email outreach in this case is relevant. So, just like I said with the phone thing, this only works if people are qualified. If people are not qualified for you to be having conversations with, they're not expecting any of these things to work. But if you're having conversations with a prospect and you have qualified that prospect and you know what their interests, needs, desires, the pain points, the relevancies are, and you're speaking directly to those things, then expect for these people to open their emails. If Dr. Zainab is not having conversations of these kinds with people, but she's just collecting email addresses from Google, okay, maybe not Google, maybe from my Instagram handle. She's just collecting email addresses of everybody that she thinks might be a potential client. At the end of the day, she's sending out emails around later surgery techniques or about lifestyle modification, diet and exercise, all kinds of stuff. It's hit and miss because the email list might be made up of 98% men, but she's sending email notifications around let's say breast cancer, for instance. The person is not going to pay attention to those sorts of things. And it's something I've complained to my hospital about because I receive email from them from time to time, but they're sending me emails about what's it called? Different kinds of thoracic surgery and blah blah blah, and basically stuff that I think people who are seeing specialists should be interested in, specialists of a certain kind, and not ordinary everyday people like me who are normal problems are just malaria, headache, back pain, and those sorts of things. So I guess the summary is this: should you expect people to reply to your emails all the time? The answer is no. You're never going to get a 100% open rate. But the thing is, the closer you are to people's interests, their needs, their desires, their pain points, and the relevancy, then people are going to reply your emails and open your emails. So if you're in a relationship with the prospect, but you haven't done the work to qualify them, then it's hit and miss. You send emails, they might respond, they might not respond, because it depends. But if you've gone through a good qualification good qualification process when dealing with this prospect, the chances are they're going to open the email because it is relevant to them in that particular time. So when it comes to email outreach, it's mostly a matter of relevance. Yeah, relevance and how it ties into what the person is interested in at the time. Because if it's not, then the prospect is going to do what the rest of us do, which is when we wake up in the morning, we open our inbox, and then we start looking for which emails to delete. Tick, 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 spam, tick, 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 delete, tick, 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 move to this folder, move to that folder. And if your email is not relevant, the person is going to do the same. They're going to spam, block, reject, move to promotions folder, move to that folder. And so that is the solution. You want people to reply your emails, make sure that you're only dealing with qualified people and that you're only writing about things that they're interested in and that are relevant to them. So thanks for listening to today's episode. I'll catch you guys at the next recording.